Hello.
Hi.
We got 2 weeks left. Well, now that I think of it,
3 weeks.
there's a week off in between conference championships and Super Bowl. I don't know if we'll do anything that week or not. You're just gonna have to check back on Thursday and find out. So, 2 games. We're gonna guess those. That'll obviously go fairly quick. We might recap last week a little bit. We might talk coaching. I don't know, coaches that got fired and what's going on with that.
Coaching carousel.
Yeah.
A lot of meat on that bone.
And I don't know, maybe we'll just call it short and sweet too.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
let's do it. Got 2 games. All the pretenders are definitely out at this point.
Only the cream of the crop.
So we got the Chiefs at the Ravens. So these games are Sunday at 2 and 5:30 Central. I believe.
Championship Sunday.
Whoa. When NFL should be playing.
Yeah.
Okay. Chiefs at the Ravens. I have Ravens by 4.
I got them going 3.5.
It was 3.5 last time I looked. Ravens 3.5, and it is 3.5.
This one right, and I got the next one wrong.
All right. Only 2 games. I mean, obviously the odds of like tying are pretty good, but
Yeah.
Josh gets that one. Okay. So you nailed it. I was off by a half point.
I mean, this just feels like the 2 best teams in the AFC for sure. I know there was a lot of people who really liked the Bills, like coming down the stretch when they went, I think, whether it was 5 of 6 they won to clinch their division. People were saying Super Bowl contenders. I never saw that. There's something about that Bills team that doesn't feel complete, and maybe it's just the fact they haven't won. And that gives that legacy some sturdiness. But I think I think the Ravens are a better team. I think they're the most complete team. They've been the best team all year. I don't think it's been. I mean, certainly since the 49ers game has not been close. I really wanted to give them more points, but then it's like, oh wait, no, it's Patrick Mahomes. So then it was just they're at home, and I think they are the better team. So the 0.5, the hook, that's it.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. Like these teams on paper, it really should be higher. I almost did that too, and then I'm just like, whether it's warranted or not, Mahomes in the playoffs, or whether it's just they do that because they know that people are gonna like that side, and so they're gonna juice it a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. You could make an argument either way, but yeah, I mean, like on paper, the Ravens, what they've done this year, they should be favored by more than 3.5. I think. Like, I wouldn't have been surprised if it was like 5 or 5.5.
I mean, I could have even seen 7, honestly.
Yeah, when you go that high, though, it's like, I don't know. There's just so many ways to cover. So I was kind of had in my head like 5.5 would probably be the highest they would go, but it's 3.5. I guess a relatively fair line, and this is going to be. Most people, I think, are going to be kind of polarized on this. Like, you either think the Ravens are definitely the best team and you just like them to cover here because they've proven it throughout the year, or you're on the Mahomes bandwagon and, when the playoffs hit, you just think he's gonna keep it close, have a chance to win the game and cover the 3.5. So it's kind of one or the other, I think.
Yeah, I mean, how do you go? Like, just look at Mahomes has made the AFC Championship game every season he's started.
Yeah, that is. I did hear that too. That's pretty wild.
I mean, it's like, I know he's not started the league 20 years, but still, from the first to right now, every time, and then three of those times, he's made the Super Bowl, and 2 of those times he's won. It's just like, and he's 27, like mid to late 20s.
Yeah, that sounds about. Well, yeah, that sounds about.
27. Anyway, yeah, I just think it's a fascinating matchup.
So you get more than 3 on Mahomes in the playoffs. Like,
No
I don't know if it might be the square side in a way, but I don't know how you,
Mm-mm.
a playoff game, it's Mahomes, like you just think it's gonna be close, and I don't know. I mean, not a terribly strong opinion, I guess, just because of that fact. Like it just feels like, I don't know, all the let's call them commoners who are walking into a sports book in Vegas are probably taking the Chiefs. The people who don't know a lot about this stuff, they're like, oh yeah, Mahomes, of course. But maybe not. Maybe there's just as many of those people that are going in. They're like, the Ravens are by far the best team. They've beaten the best teams. They've been the most consistent. Like, of course they're going to cover 3.5. So you can pretty much always make a case for either side. I don't know. I think I like the Chiefs, but not a ton.
I mean, yeah, if we're going to do that now, I think I do too. I do think I like the Chiefs in this game, even though, like, like you said on paper, I go, how are they winning this game? Like, how? Because Jackson is a fantastic quarterback. Like, it's he's electric, and he can throw the ball, he can run the ball, he can run the ball all game long. It's just underselling him like Lamar Jackson so much. Have they played? They must have played. Have they ever played against one another? They must have.
Mahomes and
And
Lamar.
Jackson, yeah, not in the playoffs, but
Well, I mean, that's something to look
the matchup.
into. I mean, AFC, AFC, NFC, NFC tend to play each other more frequently, even when they're not in the same division. Well, obviously, division you play them twice, but
Yeah.
Lamar's been hurt so much. Like, I wouldn't have been surprised if the Chiefs played the Ravens when
And then
Lamar
he
was
was out.
out. But yeah, that's something to look into if they've played each other.
Yeah.
Another thing about this game is I can certainly see the Ravens blowing them out just because, like I said, like, well, if
Yeah.
you watch the Texans game, the Texans didn't score an offensive touchdown, and the Ravens defense was just like absolutely suffocating.
Yeah.
And I mean, usually the Chiefs like are dynamic in their play
Mhm.
calls, and they can kind of, you know, get around some of that. But you could absolutely see that happening again, where they're just like they're so good across their defense, and they're just shutting them down. But if it's close, like just the history of Lamar in the playoffs and like
Not great.
losing close games, like they're ahead in the fourth and they just end up losing the game. Like if it's close, like I don't know how you. I don't know. Do you trust Lamar or do you trust Mahomes? I think you have to trust Mahomes a little bit more, but maybe this is just Lamar's coming out party. Like he's just gonna kind of, I don't know. I don't know what the term is, but just like win this game, win the next game, and just like finally get over the hump.
But it's like Lamar's playoff record, unfortunately, isn't very good. He's only, like, last week was his second playoff victory, so he's tied Baker Mayfield, and I like Baker too, but like you don't want to be tying his playoff record, right? If you're Lamar Jackson, Mahomes' playoff record, I believe, stands right now at 13 victories. 13. Brady, over a 20-year career, had 33. So, I mean, Mahomes is gonna get to that halfway point, like at half. It's just, I don't know. It's just Mahomes is magic in the postseason. I mean, he's been bested. He lost to Cincinnati, and he lost a few times or in the Super Bowl. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know how you bet against that.
Yeah. All right. So another thing, real quick. So Mahomes, Kelsey, 16 touchdown passes between the two in the playoffs has tied Gronkowski and Brady now for the most all time, I think. So I don't know. I mean, Kelsey looked good. He scored 2 touchdowns. That's the best he's looked in a long time. They just like it's like they weren't keying on him. He was wide open for that one. Um, I don't know what's going on there. Maybe defenses have just like doubled him all year, and that's why he hasn't been open.
I
But
just don't like that coach. I don't think he's a good coach, the Bills coach. And I think I'm surprised we're not hearing, and maybe this will come out, like that he's a little out the door, right? I mean, they fired the OC in the season. Like that's not. Now, granted, that seemed like the right course because they got better after that, but I don't know. That just
Yeah, so
after all of the failure they've had,
I
full
don't
season wise.
I don't know how to there's I feel like I always have two schools of thought, but like, yeah, McDermott's gotten them to the playoffs a ton.
Yeah.
Allen has been very good, just hasn't been able, like, he's losing like these one possession games in the playoffs. And it's like, do you think that he's just never gonna get over the hump? Like there's something about what he's doing that
The strategy.
they can't win these one score games? Or is it just kind of like you're going against Patrick Mahomes, who's going to go down as probably one of the top 5 quarterbacks ever?
Oh, this is no question.
And so, like, is it just like the competition is really tough, and it's just very difficult to win against that? Like, so do you try to find an absolute unicorn who can get over the hump and like start beating Mahomes consistently in the playoffs, which may not even exist? Or do you stick with someone who's getting you to the playoffs, who's, won a couple playoff games and just keep working on it? Like the latter of those just seems the like your best chance at doing it. And like they faked a punt and didn't get it, right? Which the call kind of made sense because they couldn't stop Mahomes. So they kind of needed to mix it up. And then they still had a chance to tie it with a 44-yard field goal and missed it. So I don't know. Like,
Yeah, that's the thing too. They were there to win, to at least tie the game. And then it wasn't even the coach's fault. It wasn't Josh Allen's fault. The kicker fucked it up. And so that's a good point. I forgot about that. But I don't know, man.
But even so, even if they tie it,
Yeah.
I mean, they have what, 2 minutes? And yet, like a tipped ball or like some weird fumble, and you can get the ball back and win that game. But you just have to think Mahomes is going down the
That's
field,
right.
and their Butker's gonna make a field goal as time expires. But
I mean, I think if you look at it, it's like Mahomes is like, you don't think you can go about this like strategically, like attacking Mahomes, right? If you look at it, like the weakness of that team is everything around Mahomes and the coaching staff. So if you don't have a coach, and Andy Reid is a good coach, but he's never been the master tactician that Belichick was. Like the in-game prep, like master, like the wizard, absolute wizard. And that's why he's the best. So if you're not going to beat the quarterback, and your coach isn't as good as the other coach, is like, doesn't it seem to be that's the place to try and get better? Is get somebody who can out scheme Reid, because Reid was never able to get around Belichick, never. Like he was never able to do that.
yeah,
So go after a different vulnerability. To me,
yeah, I don't know. It's a tough question. It's not one that
is.
has a simple answer, obviously. But like with all the injuries the Bills defense had and how well they played towards the end of the year, but then they got to this game and they couldn't stop them. Which I don't know if any of you were watching the game, but when they went through like the inactives, and they had like 3 starters on injured reserve, and then they showed like 7 other starters, and 3 of them were in and 4 of them were out for the Bills, and it was just like, how do you? I don't know. The injury bug just bit them harder than other teams. I'm like, how do you?
Didn't it? Didn't they miss like last year, like 2 or 3 like key defensive players down the stretch that got like severely injured? I feel like that happened to them last year too.
So I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't think. Well, they haven't obviously fired McDermott, right?
No, and I've not heard anything. Like there's like no grumblings like that's even like gonna happen. Like we were hearing Harbaugh to the Chargers for weeks, and guess what? It's Harbaugh to the Chargers. But I've not heard anything like that. He's not like that. He's going anywhere. It's weird that question isn't being asked. Like people had no qualms. Like McCarthy, like it was like for weeks. It's like, is he going to lose his job if they lose this game? We didn't hear like that didn't happen with McDermott, and then McCarthy kept his job, which I think a lot of people were surprised with. I was a little surprised that he's still there. That they kind of doubled down. They didn't double down because they didn't extend him, but they didn't let him go either. I don't know. That was a weird one too, honestly.
All right. So McDermott's probably in for a little while longer, which I think is fair. But if next year they lose like a home playoff game, I don't know. At some point, you're gonna have to move on if you can't get over the hump, because like, yeah, it's tough to win a championship, but you got to keep trying and doing what you can. So I don't know. We'll see. Okay, we got one more game.
Jeez.
We got the Lions at the 49ers, and I guess the Niners would be favored by 8.
I said 5.5. I got a lot of Lions love.
And it is
5.5.
7, so I barely get that one. Okay. So it's a touchdown. That's fair. I started thinking about this. Obviously, we were both around a touchdown. I was a little high. You were a little low. I mean, I don't know. The Lions defense is a little suspect. I don't really see how they stop the Niners. I sort of said the same thing, I think, about the Packers, but looking back, the Packers defense had been playing better. So that kind of made sense in a way. Plus the rain, like it was raining. If any of you watched the 49ers Packers game, it was raining. And like you could tell it was affecting Purdy. Like he had a glove on before the game and then he took it off. And like you could just tell some of the throws weren't, they should have been. I mean, it was raining pretty hard. You couldn't always tell that. But it was raining pretty hard most of the game. I think that definitely had an impact. So it's a touchdown. I think, I don't know, like 7's a lot in a playoff game, but the key here is going to be Deebo Samuel's shoulder is, well, there's no fractures in his shoulder, but obviously it's pretty messed up because he seems like one of the toughest dudes there is. And he, was out, he missed 80% of the game. The game.
Yeah, they lost in the regular season. They lost every game he missed, didn't they? They had that 3-game losing streak, wasn't he? Out all 3 games.
So that's certainly something to watch. I mean, their play calling is far less dynamic, obviously, when he's not in there, because you can do so many things, even if it's just with motion as like a decoy, or you can flip it out to him in the backfield and let him run, or he can run normal routes. But when you don't have that, it's just like you almost have to spy on him because he's so dynamic, and then you just it
Take
makes
another piece. Yeah,
the defense, it's a lot easier to call. So
is that a flaw? Like to have a strategy, like the linchpin of what you do offensively tethered. And I know, like, take the quarterback out of it because that's everybody. But if like what you're doing is tethered to one guy so strongly, and there's nobody else on your team who can even come close to replicating it, that the offense just falls apart, should you do something different?
Well, I think it's just more complicated than that, because like you have that guy most of the time, right? So like you have to game plan that way, and then if he's out, it's not like you have a ton of time usually to prepare. Like if they had a whole off season and they're like, "Yep, Deebo's gone, we traded him."
Yeah.
Their offense would be more efficient than it is mid-season when he's out for a couple weeks and you just don't have time to really like, game plan more about like what this means for our offense as a whole. I just think there's a lot of more effort that goes into it.
Yeah.
But
well, because every good offensive team has like that other, I guess, key skill position player that, like, take Jamar Chase away from the Bengals and they're just not as good too. They just don't go. Tyreek Hill out of the Dolphins and that offense doesn't go. So I guess it's not unique to what Shanahan's doing or anybody.
But there's no structural damage. Like there's no breaks. Apparently he had some fractures in his shoulder earlier in the year, and that's what kept him out. I don't think he needed surgery. It probably just healed on its own. But if there's no breaks or no structural damage and he doesn't play, I would be very surprised. Like there's pain meds that can like you can put in there for 3 hours.
Yeah.
So I think he'll play. A lot of people are still being really hard on Purdy.
Lots.
I don't know. Like, I think if you really look at the numbers and whatnot, like obviously his stats.
4,000 yards.
are really good, but you're always going to get the people who say he's got the most weapons in the league, whatever. I think I don't know. I think the Lions' luck here is going to run out. Couple reasons. Purdy didn't really play that well. I think he's going to play a lot better. I don't think the Lions' defense can stop the Niners' offense. And flip side, I think the Niners' defense is obviously very solid. And I don't think the Lions are going to be able to go up and down the field. And then there's one other thing I was thinking of, kind of slipped my mind. I'm not sure, but I mean, the Lions have been kind of had a little magic.
America's team right now, man.
If they can put up points on the Niners defense and hold them a little bit, I could see them being in the game. But I don't know. I just think this is going to be one of those where it's like, oh, the Lions had a good year, but they lost by 14.
And by Lions standards, it's an amazing year. I shouldn't even call them Detroit Lions anymore. Unrecognizable.
Name change. All right. So a couple things here. If the Chiefs and Lions win, that's a rematch of Week 1.
The first and the last game. That would be.
And the Lions
incredible.
won at Arrowhead.
By what, 1 point? I think,
Yeah,
wasn't it? Like 21-20.
Yep. There was a fake punt.
Yeah.
That game. Kelsey was out. Chris Jones was out.
That's right. That's right.
The chances of that happening aren't very good, obviously, because the Chiefs and Lions are not. Neither one of them are favored. Or you could get a rematch between the Niners and the Ravens, where the Ravens blew out the Niners in San Fran.
Yeah.
You had Purdy threw a pick, didn't see a guy on the backside on the first or second drive after they were moving it right down the field. And then there was a couple tipped balls, and that game just that happens to every team. A game just kind of spirals out of control, and just nothing you can do if your couple balls get tipped and whatnot. So, there's going to be a storyline no matter what, but we could get a rematch. There's a couple of possibilities of a rematch from the regular season. All right. What else?
Want to do predictions?
Well, yeah, let's go back to last week.
Yeah.
And let's see how we did on our predictions. So you had Ravens Chiefs, and you went Packers Lions.
Did. Which wasn't that far off. The Packers were in that game.
Oh yeah,
they absolutely
could have won it.
Yeah, well, it was ended on a pick, right? Just like the Buccaneers did.
Well, even before that, I mean, the Niners were down and they had to have a drive.
So can we go back just for a second? Are the Pittsburgh Steelers Super Bowl contenders if Baker Mayfield is at quarterback? Because they could have had Baker Mayfield. Everybody could have had Baker Mayfield at the beginning of this year. Is he good enough? Is that defense where it needs to be? And is he just good enough? Is he Trent Dilfer? Is he broken Peyton Manning when the Broncos won it?
You said Super Bowl contenders?
Yes. Super Bowl contenders?
No, because just look at who they'd have to go through. But they're certainly better off. But here's the problem. Evans, Godwin, Palmer, Moore. You don't really have a lot of divas there.
Uh-huh.
On the Steelers, you got Pickens, Johnson. Well, basically those two. They get a little upset more than they should if the ball's not coming their way. I feel like it's a hard wide receiver room to kind of manage. So that's part of it. And then play calling too. I don't know who calls the Bucks plays, but obviously the Steelers had some problems and got rid of one guy, and so I don't know. I should just take a stance one way or another, but all these questions are just more complex than, I don't know.
One of the things, I think it's an interesting question because the Steelers defense was pretty excellent. And I don't know where it wasn't, I don't think rated as highly as the Browns or Ravens, but it was right up, or I don't even know if the Patriots where they were rated, but it felt like it was right up there, and it felt like that was the missing piece. And it's just that's an interesting question because I thought Baker played a really good game, aside from that last pick, right? When he's sort of ended the game. But he sort of had a sort of a resurrection to his career this year. So I'm just wondering, if maybe the Bucks keep him. I don't know what kind of contract he's on, but
so
interesting.
They absolutely should keep him.
Oh,
And
there's no question in my
and they
mind, for
whip. I mean,
sure.
like the players like him, like they
Yeah.
overachieved. Like you have to think you can build on that.
I mean, he looked like he could take you to a Super Bowl. Like, I mean, he almost beat that Lions team. They were competitive.
So I'm gonna jump back to something
Yeah.
about the Bills because I just thought of it. So they showed Josh Allen's playoff wins
Mm,
all time. He beat like three backup quarterbacks, and the fourth
mm.
win was against the Ravens when Lamar Jackson got concussed in the third quarter. So like I forget who it was. It's so obviously Mason Rudolph he beat this year.
Oh.
He beat the Ravens when Jackson didn't play
Hmm.
a good part of the second half. And then there was two other ones. One other one was definitely a backup quarterback. I'd have to look it up, but go look that up. I mean, it is pretty. His playoff wins are pretty soft, but I thought that was interesting. So if we go back to these predictions, so I don't know. I guess it was a fairly easy week to predict. Like you took a chance on the Packers. They absolutely could have won that game. I went, Ravens, Chiefs, Niners, Lions, but the Lions were a heavy favorite. The Chiefs, yeah, they were an underdog, but a lot of people were picking the Chiefs. Ravens obviously were a heavy favorite, and the Niners were a heavy favorite. So it wasn't, like a lot of people probably got three right, maybe four right, picking that. But anyway, let's move on to the
Hmm.
predictions this round. So mine are going to stay the same because I picked them all right last round. So I have Chiefs and the Niners winning. Who do you got?
I think I'm going to go for the bookend bowl, man. I'm going to go for Chiefs Lions.
Both dogs, huh?
Yeah,
And who's going to win?
Chiefs.
If that happens, I don't see how the Chiefs lose that game, especially since they lost the first one and just like their track record in the playoffs. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Like the Chiefs couldn't stop the Bills like three drives in a row. Or, like the Bills were pretty much scoring at will for most of that game, at least the first half. So like you'd have to think the Lions could score as well. I don't know.
I honestly don't think the Chiefs are going to beat the Ravens. Like the Ravens for me would have to have some kind of utter collapse. Like Jackson would have to go out with like a concussion or something. Like he'd have to get injured.
For
I feel
what?
for the Ravens to lose. I just don't see them losing. I want this to happen. I want the bookend bowl, right? I want Chiefs Lions, but I don't think that that's realistic.
I'm just gonna stick with what I've said before. Part of me is like starting to think if this actually happens, Chiefs Niners, like Mahomes against. There's been some stories about, like Shanahan. If the
Mm.
game's tight, it seems like I don't know, the play calling just kind of goes to crap, and like they can't. Well, you saw what happened. Who was it? Niners. Who did they lose the Chiefs? Yeah,
That's the
the
Chiefs.
Chiefs. They're up by
They were leading, and then in
like
the
three
third quarter.
scores or
Mhm.
something.
Yeah.
So if that happens again, like it's just like you have to start thinking when history starts repeating itself, like how do you stop that? And you'd think you'd think about that ahead of time and like know what you're gonna do and rehearse what you're gonna do so that it doesn't happen again. But
Let's think about this though. Like, okay, so that happened in that Super Bowl. Rewind a little bit further, and Shanahan was the OC in Atlanta when they had that epic collapse against Brady, 28-3. He was the OC of that.
I don't think I knew he was the
Yeah, he was the OC of the Falcons when they were up 28-3 at half and then fucking lost because they didn't score another point. So he has done that a few times in the Super Bowl, which is like the one place you really don't
Yeah.
want to do that.
Yeah, it's definitely different skills, like
Mm.
being a really good play caller and scheming things up. Obviously, Shanahan's good at that, but like,
I mean, his coaching tree is maybe the best in the league right now.
there's some coaches where okay, there's 2 minutes left, the other team has three timeouts. You need one, maybe two first downs. There's some coaches who are very good at calling a pass that gets completed and gets you enough for a first down. And there's other coaches, it seems like just can't, like they just either run it or like pass plays they call just don't work. It's just like, seems like there's definitely an art to that. Like the Lions, what's his name? Something Johnson, I think. Their offensive coordinator.
Oh,
They've
Ben
been
Johnson.
very good at that. Like they're not afraid to pass in those situations. They usually get it done, and like they're like the best chance of us winning is just keeping the ball, and that's, you can tell that's their game plan, and they're just going to go for it. And they're not going to just run it 3 times and kick the ball back. So I don't know. So I'm still going to stick with Niners, but like I said, that would be very interesting how that played out if it happens.
So did you hear that before the start of this season, Kyle Shanahan reached out to Tom Brady to see if he wanted to QB the Niners this year?
I did see that. I didn't know if that was a rumor or not.
Brock Purdy addressed it. Like,
oh yeah. That's
he
right.
said, like, Shanahan came to him and said, "Hey, buddy, good job. But if Tom Brady's going to play for us, you're going to sit on the bench." Purdy's like, "Okay."
Yeah, Purdy did the most Purdy thing ever. Like,
Yeah.
it's
Sure.
Tom Brady. Like,
Yeah,
okay, I understand.
But I just felt like, and then the kid comes out and throws for again 4,000 yards. He's not like this. This is not, I don't know. This is not retread Baker Mayfield before he got to the Bucs. This is not like Jared Goff after he left the Rams. This is not like, this is not Mitch Trubisky going from the Bears to the Steelers for some reason. Like, how many of these crummy sort of mid-tier quarterbacks pass for 4,000 yards? Like, have one season with 4,000 yards passing. And Brock Purdy had that in his sophomore effort. After his rookie season where he came in and he was the third string guy, and he came in with like 7 or 8 games left and led him to the, have a lot of faith in Purdy for some reason.
Yeah, I do too. So every scenario has some sort of story to it.
Yeah.
So obviously we just talked about Chiefs Niners, so that would be the rematch from a few years ago, like 3 or 4 years ago. Chiefs Lions, they played week 1. The Lions won at Arrowhead. Niners, what did I say? Oh, Niners Ravens. You know, the Ravens beat them earlier this year.
And in the Super Bowl 10 years ago.
Oh yeah, that's right.
The Hardball Bowl.
And I guess the one combination would be Lions Ravens, and that's what a lot of Fairweather fans, I'll call them, are probably cheering for, because you have a lot of like, let's have someone who hasn't won it before win it, sort of a thing.
Yeah. Also
or
a rematch.
Who hasn't won it in a while. So let's do Lions Ravens, and then you also have I don't know. It just seems like there's more hatred towards the Niners and the Chiefs. Like, you got the Taylor Swift thing going on, and the Niners, the Purdy thing. It seems like people just love to hate those situations, and they want the Lions and Ravens. But any of those matchups, obviously, it's the Super Bowl. You can't mess it up.
Yeah, you
see what happens. Yeah. What?
Three,
Usher's
Usher's
gonna mess up the halftime?
I don't want to see another 3-13 game. God, I didn't even like.
What was that?
That was the last Tom Brady Patriots Super Bowl, Rams.
Oh yeah, I did see
Jared Goff Bowl.
I saw that. I'm like, yeah, they were like, oh, last time, the only other time Goff made the Super Bowl, 13-3. I'm like, seriously, they scored 3 points?
Yeah, Bill Belichick just shut him down. Well, I mean, he was shut down too. They only scored 13 points, but still, it was enough to win. Yeah. So let's not have that happen.
Yeah, 16 points in the Super Bowl. Although if you had the square 3-3, that's usually, I mean, it's not a horrible one to have,
Or
but
if
it's
took
pretty
the under,
tough.
I guess.
Yeah. All right. So that's that. What else? Let's go back to last week real quick and see if there's any stories we missed on these games. Oh, so did you hear about like the whole Bucks like time management debacle?
No, What happened?
So I was thinking this at the time, and then I kind of just like let it slip away. But I was listening to the radio yesterday a little bit, and so the Lions, whatever, they got 1 first down on their after Baker threw the pick, right? So they're up 8. They got 1 first down, but then they I'd have to go back and watch it to really fully understand it, but they started kneeling like too soon. It was like the Bucks didn't call their last timeout. And so the Lions were basically just like, it got under 120. And they're like, okay, we just need to kneel twice. As long as it's under 120, we get 40 seconds. We'll kneel one more time and then it's over. But the Bucks didn't call their timeout. So the Lions sort of like, it was almost like a gentleman's rule that they're like, okay, they're not going to call their timeout. So let's just kneel it barely under 120 and barely under 40. And then the game's just over. They could have waited longer. I don't know if they could have completely burnt the clock, but it was like this big thing where like the Bucks legitimately could have gotten the ball back with like, I don't know if it would have been 15 seconds or 30 seconds, but it was like, and then Bowles was asked about it in the press conference and he's like, basically played up like the gentleman's, like, we had our chance, like we weren't going to win sort of a thing. But some people are saying like, how do you make that mistake, especially in a playoff game? On the radio, they're like, if you have a 1% chance of winning versus a 0% chance, you take the 1% chance. And it didn't get as much airtime.
I hear anything about like,
but like I want to go back and watch that sequence and see like what exactly happened, because it was just one of those weird things where it's like you almost got lulled into this sense of who really cares, but they could have gotten the ball back. So I think the Lions would have tried like a 40-some yard field goal. Obviously, if they make that, they're up 11 and it's over. But if they miss it, or if they choose to punt and you got to go the length of the field for a touchdown and a 2-point conversion, it could happen. So that was something that didn't get talked about enough, or maybe I'm just not paying attention to the places that we're talking about it. So we talked about Chiefs, Bills, Packers, Niners, Texans, Ravens was, well, I mean, the Ravens we talked about that a little bit. Like they just destroyed them, but it's crazy that the Texans couldn't even get one offensive touchdown. They had a punt return touchdown and that was it. 10-10 at half, and then 20, they outscored them 24-0 in the second half.
The Ravens didn't look good. Like they looked like history was repeating itself. Another Lamar Jackson, not on him, all on him. Another Ravens playoff loss.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk a little coaching vacancies.
Coaching carousel. Woo!
All right, so this is a little tougher for me, but so there's like 7 jobs open, is that right?
I think that's correct.
Well, 6 now.
Quick Harbaugh just got, or that was last night, I guess, but yeah.
So you were saying something about coaching trades.
Yes. Let me regurgitate the internet for you. All right. So Don Shula was traded from the Colts to the Dolphins in the 70s. And that was for Miami traded a first-round pick to the Baltimore Colts in 1970 for Don Shula. Don Shula won him 2 Super Bowls and has the only undefeated season in the history.
The Colts. Yeah, I don't know. The Colts last 2 years they've lost out of the play. Weren't able to get into the playoffs on the last game of the year, and now we're going. I mean, like some bad luck, I guess.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And let's see. Bill Parcells was traded from the Patriots to the Jets. Mike,
for what?
Let's see. So so he went from the Patriots to the Jets. Sorry. So the Jets paid for Bill Parcells a first, a second, a third, and a fourth. And
I feel like that would never happen today, but I don't know.
And he went to the playoffs 1 time in 3 seasons.
I don't know if this is true, but I've heard he's trying to get back into coaching.
Parcells?
Yeah, isn't he like
he's got to be 90.
700 years old?
I mean, he was like both Bill Belichick and the guy who won those Giants Super Bowls with Eli Manning. Both of those guys were on Parcells' staff in the Giants in the 80s. Like he is 82.
82, I don't know. Has there ever been an 80-year-old coach? I mean, we have an 80-year-old president, but
I don't know how old Hallis was when he stopped. I don't think so. I didn't hear that. That's crazy.
Oh, Kraft is 82. So Parcells and Kraft could be the 82, same age. Let's do this.
Mike Holmgren was traded from the Packers to the Seahawks, and Holmgren took him to the Super Bowl for the first time. Here's the one, though. Maybe the greatest trade in NFL history. 2000, Bill Belichick traded from the Jets to the Patriots, and the Patriots gave up a first and a fourth and a fifth. He won 6 Super Bowls, creating the greatest dynasty in the history of the NFL to date. Is that the greatest trade in NFL history?
Until Sean Payton wins 13 Super Bowls in
Yes.
a row with Jarrett Stidham and Jerry Jeudy.
So Peyton was traded from the Saints to the Broncos for a first and a third. A first and a third. And has done nothing but chew Russell Wilson out on the sidelines.
What is happening with that now?
I mean, Wilson's not gonna be the quarterback.
But that's obviously a mess because they owe him
Huge.
so much money.
Huge.
But I guarantee you there's another team that wants him to come play quarterback.
Really? Wilson?
Well, I mean, I don't know what it would be financially. Like maybe that would make it so it's not doable. But are you telling me that he's not like one of the 32 best quarterbacks in the world right now? I think he absolutely is.
I mean, okay, yes, but is like the cost to bring in him worth it? Because probably not, because you can get somebody way cheaper, and the drop off in talent at this point for him, is it going to be that much like worse?
All right. I mean,
I just don't see what team, is it I guess you look at a team that is defense ready and quarterback light. So that's the Steelers,
Falcons,
Steelers. Who's like the quarterback away? Bears.
The
Vikings.
Bears shouldn't try that one.
No, my God, that would be disaster. Vikings? Do you want to see him on the Vikings?
I would take him on the Vikings.
Really?
I don't think they would even consider that.
Do you think the Vikings would have made the playoffs with Russell Wilson?
Playing the whole year?
I mean, or even just after Cousins went down. Yeah. I mean, so that would have been probably the Packers spot, right? That sounds like,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that nine wins certainly seems doable, right? At that point.
Yeah, I don't know. Interesting.
I
Right.
don't know. Coaching trades are weird.
Yeah, they are. I didn't even think that was a thing until you brought it up. But
Happens, I guess. I mean, it happens all the time. Notable though, it seems to work out a lot of the time. Shula, Belichick, Gruden. John Gruden was the other big one. He went from the went from the Raiders to the Bucs and immediately won a Super Bowl. It's resulted in Super Bowls like a handful of times. Feels like that's the way to go. Go trade and get the best coach, and then find a quarterback, and you'll probably win a Super Bowl. That's the formula. Look, we solved it. Somebody pay us millions of dollars to run a team. It's not that hard.
Which other teams don't have a coach right now? Patriots?
No, Patriots signed Gerard Mayo almost immediately after they showed Belichick the door.
See, I'm so out of touch with this. I just haven't been paying attention.
Like it was like the media. It was like the press conference happened like 15 minutes later. I mean, not literally, but
what was
he was a Patriots linebacker.
Right, but what was
he was he their DC or assistant coach? He was on the
Belichick's
team.
son was the DC.
Was he really?
Yeah. What that was?
I'm surprised he didn't
He's
get
a
the
goofy
job.
guy, but well, right. So
is it Buck Belichick? Is that what his name is? No, that's Deuce Gruden. Sorry. Yeah, Gerard Mayo was on the team. I don't know what he was doing, but that's filled. Seahawks. The Seahawks is open. Falcons is open. Who like, what else? Is there, oh, Panthers is still open.
Oh, yeah.
Panthers is open. I think they went, my understanding is they went Ben Johnson, right? So they'll probably wait until after the Lions are out. The better question is whether Ben Johnson wants to play for David Tepper.
Coach for David Tepper.
Yeah, that's right.
He'll
Yeah.
give you 6 weeks. If you're 3-3, he might fire you.
Yeah. I think the Raiders is still open, but I feel like that's going to the Antonio Pierce.
Oh, I thought it was a done deal.
Oh, is it a done deal? I didn't, maybe it is. That's just Mark Davis going like, oops, I should have hired Rich Bisaccia 2 years ago. Not gonna make the same mistake twice. I really thought the Packers job would have been like after week 5, week 6, but that didn't happen, unfortunately.
They're gonna be like, I don't know. They're obviously upside is looking very good at this point. I don't like that in the division that.
No, I know. Like Jordan Love, like becoming the second coming of Aaron Rodgers, Brett Favre. No, that's not good. Oh, Washington, they're open too.
They did fire him?
Rivera, yeah, he's gone. Yeah, he's gone.
I didn't hear.
Yeah.
So here's an interesting thing. So the Bears hired Waldron as their offensive coordinator. They also interviewed Cliff Kingsbury, who had been Caleb Williams' offensive coordinator at USC.
Right.
So it doesn't mean that they're not going to draft Caleb Williams, but if they would have hired Kingsbury, then it's like, well, how are they not drafting Williams?
Yeah.
So that's still kind of up in the air. It seems like what you hear around here is that they're gonna draft Williams. Like it's like a 75% chance or more, but who knows? I'll have to wait and see on that.
Well, see, that's where the smart money is. And so I don't know. I was going to make a crack at the Bears' expense. I honestly, even objectively, I don't know how you value these things in a way where you're going to, like you say, what the decision they're going to make is wrong. I mean, if you look at the history of number 1 picks and the success rate, it's fucking awful. So I don't care how many people bear down and say Caleb Williams is the best prospect since whenever. Most of those best prospects flame out. But then at the same day, it's like, I think I was thinking about this today. I think Justin Fields is probably at or near his ceiling. I mean,
here's what I'm going to say. I think well, I don't know if Williams is going to pan out. Like people are high on him.
Huge.
You can't tell if these character issues are actually issues or if that's just social media, like misconstruing things or whatever. But I'm going to make a prediction, and this isn't really grounded in anything. But I'm going to say that a team's going to love Williams or love Drake May, and they're going to want to give up more than they should, just like last year.
Yes.
And then the Bears are going to get a bunch of picks, and it's just going to be too good to turn down. And they're going to say, okay, we still don't really know for sure about Fields. He took some strides. Let's give him another year.
Another coordinator.
Let's take all these picks and turn it into something like we did last time with like DJ Moore. And I don't know who else they drafted, but I'm going to make a prediction and say that's what ends up happening. There's so much time. The draft is in April?
Yeah, that's right.
That's what I'm going to say is going to happen. So there's your Bears corner tidbit.
I think that, to me, again, if you're trying to put some sort of objective tether to this and some metrics, which I don't have, my assumption is that is the better play. Like, absent any hardcore data, which you don't have from Caleb Williams, right? He's never played an NFL game. So anything you say about his potential is purely speculative. None of it transfers. So to me, that sounds like the right move. But then, they also the Bears have the 9th pick. So they have the 1st and the 9th pick in this draft. Draft Williams and trade the 9th pick, and you're not going to get as much, but maybe you get, I don't know. I've kind of come full circle. I don't care what they do. I don't know. I don't think there's going to be a material difference. Like, the Bears record next year with Caleb Williams versus Justin Fields is probably about the same. That's how I feel like. And they're probably not a playoff team.
Yeah. We'll see. I mean, the Bears looked good the second half of the season. Obviously, the Packers did. The Vikings, their quarterback went down, so obviously that was tough. But you'd think if Cousins comes back and plays well, they should be in the mix for playoffs. And then the Lions, obviously, like I don't see them going anywhere. So obviously all four, well, I suppose all four teams could make it.
Well, it is, I mean, certainly the structure is there. I think the realistic thing to say is that the Bears, on paper, at least right now, are the worst team in the division. Right? Going into next season, add Caleb Williams, don't add Caleb Williams, trade the pick, don't trade the pick. Still probably 4 out of 4.
So I say it's possible, but with them playing each other twice, they just beat up on each other. It's
Yeah.
like next to impossible to have all four get in from a division. But
We did what? Just 3 got in from the AFC North this year, right? The Browns, the Steelers, and the Ravens.
yeah, and the Bengals were
They were right
whatever.
close. They were the 11th.
I mean, what did they end up?
11 or 10, I think.
8
They were
and
right
9
outside.
or 9?
Yeah, 7 and 10. I don't know. But again, they lost it. Like, what if Joe Burrow was healthy the entire season? Like,
Well, then the Steelers don't make
the
it.
Steelers. Yeah, that's fair. Actually, that's probably fair. That's it. Yeah. Interesting.
All right. Well, we had to talk about something. So you got some
There's still some
Bears
football left to play.
talk, some
Yeah,
coaching carousel talk.
we stretched 2 games into almost a full hour.
Yeah, we got 2 games Sunday, should be good. Let's hope we got a couple tight games. We'll see what happens. I feel like we need to practice, like you see on like Kevin Burkhardt and Joe Buck. They're obviously taught to do this, like these analysts or whatever commentators. But like Joe Buck will say, "Let's turn it over to the Hall of Famer Troy Aikman," and then they always look at the camera and smile this goofy ass smile, and then they look at their part. Like it seems so weird, like why they do that if you just watch them do it. But obviously they're taught to do it. I don't know if it's just like
Looks good on camera, I
I
guess.
guess it does, but it also looks kind of weird. It's like they're trying so hard. I don't get it, but we'll leave you with that. Vikings don't play this week. Bears don't play this week.
Mm-mm.
Um,
Go Lions.
That's all we got.
Go Lions.
Go football.